Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here today. This is Nicole with Topaz, and today we're going to be talking about our new plugin, Topaz Black and White Effects. I'm just going to introduce some of the tools that make Topaz Black and White Effects really unique, as well as exploring the interface in a couple different workflows. I'll also be answering any questions you may have at the end of the webinar. It is just me online here with you today, but if you have any questions, you can type them into your questions module on your GoToWebinar panel. I'll be taking a look at those throughout the webinar and then answering them all at the end. Also, if you're having any trouble with your sound or your speakers, or I'm sorry, your sound or your screen, you can usually log off and log back in, shut down anything that might be taking up a lot of memory on your system, such as Flash, and that usually solves the issue. So let's go ahead and jump on into some before and after images, and then we'll go into what makes black and white effects pretty unique. All right, so let me just show you some before and afters first. This is before. Most of the ones I'm showing you right now are one-click presets. This is just a preset. This is in our cyanotype collection. One of the things that makes black and white effects unique is that it does have a very extensive preset library categorized into more traditional or alternative black and white processes. So I think right now we have 175, if I'm not mistaken, so pretty large amount of presets for you to play around with and a great starting point. So this is a before and after with a little bit of a transparent color coming back in on a global scale. Look at that huge brush. Let's go down. All right, so let's continue on. This is a warm tone conversion with a selective color for the flowers brought in at a low opacity. One of the great things about black and white effects is it does have this really intuitive selective brush. It makes it really easy to do localized adjustments with only selecting areas of the image. You can have a more natural brush or a more edge-aware brush. We'll go into that in just a bit. Let's continue on. This is before and after. Another thing that makes black and white effects is the adaptive exposure within the program. Really lets you have localized contrast control and tonal balance. It's very easy to achieve, and it really gives your image, your black and whites, a little bit of pop, which is really necessary to make really powerful black and white images. Another thing that makes it unique is this more creative effects that we've included. You can get painterly looks using the Simplify technology, posterized looks using a posterization tool, and some other looks as well that we'll go into. This is a preset, before and after. We'll go into that picture in a bit. This is before and after. See here, before. Another thing that we do have within the program is a true grain library. So it's actually scanned in grain from, I believe it's 20 or 21 grains in there right now, or film grain in there right now for you to add into your image. So you can get a very authentic look. So it's a very versatile tool. Here's before and after. We'll go ahead and jump on into the program. I think I'm going to take this one in again. I really enjoy this image within the program. So let's go ahead and go on in. I'm working on my background copy, so I've already made a copy. And I'm just going to go to Filter, Topaz Labs, Topaz Black and White Effects. And that is where all the rest of our Topaz filters are located within Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. So it's in the same area. Okay, when you get into the program, it's going to look very similar to the rest of our software with our preset panel on the left, and then our main preview in the middle, and then all of our adjustment panel and preview navigator tools on the right. So let's just start on the left. This is going to be more similar to Lens Effects. If you own Lens Effects, it's broken down into effects and then presets for each of those effects. With our effects, we've actually taken those into collections. So we have our traditional collection, which is going to give you the opportunity to simulate more traditional types of looks, silver gelatin looks, more classic black and white images. So this is a great starting point if you want to really add in your own touches. You don't want to start off with a very toned image, so this is a great area to start with. We do have some cool tones in here to simulate cool tone papers, a couple different cool tones. Also warm tones down here in the bottom. Again, a couple different styles. We also have low key, high key, underexposed, overexposed, different low contrast. So lots of stuff for you to look at and play with. And there will be more in our incremental updates as we go along. Now we do have our tone collection below that. The tone collection is going to simulate actual realistic tones that you would find in a wet darkroom still today. So antique dyes, antique sepias. The antique sepia is actually a combination of the antique dye and sepia tones. All of these were pulled from actual images. So they're very realistic, which is really important to note within this collection. So here's copper red, we have gold and blue, several different seleniums because you can get several different looks with selenium toners. Sepia and gold tones, sepia and selenium. So you can really play around with these. And I'll take you further into the program and show you exactly how to really make this your own as well. It's a great starting point, but you don't have to stay there. If it's not perfect, if it's not handling your highlights right, you can really change that quite quickly. We have our stylized collection, which as you can see is a much more stylized type of look. So this is where the creative effects come in, as well as some interesting toning. So we have more adaptive diffusion, which is going to simulate a type of diffused filter that you can actually put on your lens during taking it. We have more cartoon looks, which work for some images, don't work for others. We have pretty extreme toning and creative effects going on in a couple of these just to show you the capabilities of the program. We have some infrared looks here for you, several different infrared simulations. And then you come down into the painterly. This is our painterly color with border. Again, the preset here for you. We have some quad tones, which I'll get into what the quad tones really are, but I've included some red scale toning here for you. And even some interesting red scale that goes a little bit and brings some color back in, giving a really older look to an older color image. So lots of choices within the black and white effects. It goes beyond just black and white for sure. We also have a camera shake creative effect that can give you some really fun effects, and then we have our posters, which work for some images again, and some images just doesn't work. And it's a lot of fun to play around with as well. Okay, we then have the alternative or historical processes below, the cyanotype, albumin, Van Dyke Brown, and opalotype collections. These first three collections, the cyanotype, albumin, and Van Dyke, you'll notice that the presets have, so for example, this has Cerulean Cambridge, and then below it is Cerulean Cambridge Dynamic. The one without dynamic is going to be the more traditional looking in the sense of it's more authentic looking, but when you go down to the dynamic, it's going to give that extra little pop to the image, little adjust technology thrown in there for fun, so you can go beyond just looking very, very authentic. But I did want to include these so you could be quite authentic with it. All right, so again, the cyanotypes are going to create more cyan or blue type of imagery, and you can really work with the tones. Like this isn't handling the highlights very well, and you can easily adjust that, and I'll show you where here in just a bit. You can get all different sorts of tones within it by toning in the darkroom, so I wanted to include some things that might be a cyanotype sepia with a little bit of sepia on it, or a little bit of red tone in there. So you'll see different tones start to come out, but it's mainly blue and cyan. The albumin collection is going to be more purple to brown looks and with a little bit of yellowing highlights. So again, you have your more authentic looking ones or historically correct looking, and then you can put a little extra little pop in there with that dynamic one. So it's really up to you what you'd like to use. So I'll go down some of these and show you. Again, we have all different sorts of, let's go down here as well. So this is the albumin collection. We go down to Van Dyke Brown, which is going to be more of your lush brown tones. And it's going to be all different sorts of brown tones. Again, with the regular and then dynamic after it. It's also going to have a little bit of toning in there. So this is more of a cyan and brown. So you can play around with it. It's a lot of fun to see what your images might look like with these. Then we come down to the Opalotype collection. It simulates the old historical process of printing on milk or opal glass. Many times with Opalotypes they were hand tinted, and that's why we wanted to include this translucent, or I'm sorry, the transparent color, how you can bring that back to kind of simulate the hand tinting that went along with this type of process. Sometimes it wasn't hand tinted, and you can just play with these and see how it works with your particular imagery, and again, just a lot of fun to play with. All right, so let's go back to the traditional collection. I do want to point out that this preset preview up here, as you scroll over your presets, it will change, as you can see as I'm doing that. So it gives you an idea of what might look good for your image, a quick little snapshot. So that's really nice. So if I just want to click on it, it then applies over to my main preview. Down at the bottom of the preset panel, we have save, delete, import, and export. That's for user-made presets. So you can save them, delete them, import, and export so you can share your presets. The menu button down here is where you will change your preferences. I like to turn off my tooltips once I kind of know what's going on with the program. So that's how I would do that, and that's how you can do that. You can also enter your key through that menu button. Over in the main panel, we have our preview and original. You can toggle back and forth using these tabs up here on the left. I prefer to use my space bar or my left mouse button. You can do that 3 different ways. You can also look at your image in a split screen mode. So you come over here to this icon, this split screen icon, and then you can come down here and press fit, and you'll see your entire image split screen before and after. This is really great for selective color enhancements or color sensitivity toning adjustments. And so if I wanted to adjust my red tones, I know that this area is going to be more changed than other areas within the image. So that's something that's a nice tool to have for color adjustments like that. Let's go back to our main view. Over on the right we have our preview navigator. This is where you can zoom in, go 1:1, 100%. You can also just press fit to get it back to fit inside of the preview window. Below that we have our undo and redo buttons, and then our snap feature, and I'll go through our snap feature here in just a few. Basically what it is it allows you to take snapshots of all the adjustments you've made. So if you get to a stopping point where you think this might be something that you want to process back to your host, you can take a snapshot of it and then continue working to see if you can get something better or something different, and then you can toggle back and forth between all your snapshots to see which one you like the best. And you can take up to 99 snapshots. It's a really convenient tool if you get to a point that you think it might be really good, or you think this is what you want, but you still want to play around. That's a great tool to have. All right, I'm going to turn to the questions real quick. I have a couple coming through, so let's go ahead and answer those. Glenn asks, are additional presets ever made available for download over time? Glenn, there are some presets available, not yet for this program. I haven't seen any user-made presets, but on our forum, which is topazlabs.com/forum, there's a few threads that have some adjusts, some details, some simplify, user-made presets that people want to share, and some of them are just gorgeous. We also have a user-led Flickr group, and I know they have pretty extensive thread with some presets on there, again for our other programs. So if you ever do want to share, you can go on there, go on our forum and start a thread, and I bet there will be a lot of people that share along with you or download or export their presets as well. All right, so let's move on. Here is the heart of the program. We have a staged workflow set out for you in 4 distinct stages. First, we have our conversion. Our conversion is going to include our more basic tools for your black and white conversion. It's going to use not only the standard exposure adjustments, but also the adaptive exposure adjustments that Adjust uses, so you can really get a stylized look. Really allows you to almost get an HDR look as well within your black and whites, which can be just beautiful. It also is where you would work with your tone sensitivity. So we'll go into that here in just a second. The creative effects is going to include all the different creative stylized tools that were in that stylized collection I was showing you. It's going to include some simplified technology, the diffusion and camera shake filters from Lens Effects, and then posterize, which is new to our Topaz lineup. Then we have our local adjustments, and this is where you would selectively apply your image adjustments. This brush is amazing, and we'll go over that here in just a sec. We do have 5 different types of adjustments, including dodge, burn, color, detail, and smooth. Let's close that on up. And then we have our finishing touches. This is where any toning, grain, borders, vignettes, and bringing back some color on a global scale would come in. So we'll go through this whole process. Let's first come down to here to press Reset All, and we're going to get to a neutral grayscale image. So let's come on up to conversion. And there's a couple new tools within this workflow that you'll see. One of them is this checkbox right here, and one is this local reset icon. So let me show you just what those are about real quick, and then we'll move on to what all of the adjustments are. So let's say I just set my contrast pretty high, and I want to see what it looked like before I did that. And let's pretend I've made all of these other adjustments down here as well. And I don't want to press Reset All, but I just want to see what it looks like before and after this basic exposure adjustment. All I have to do is click on that little checkbox. You can click it off and on. If it's unchecked, it will not process back to your host program. Whatever you see here is what will process back. So this is a great little tool to have. Now let's say I want to start from fresh in this basic exposure, and I've done all of these adjustments and again all of these other adjustments down here. I don't want to reset all because I would reset my entire image in all of these adjustments, and that's not good because I didn't want to do that. So we've included this little reset, this local reset button. So you just click on it, and it takes all of your sliders back to the default position for that particular group. So those are pretty convenient little tools for you. So let's move on to what the parameters and the sliders really do. So this basic exposure tab is going to have the more advanced contrast and brightness controls, pretty standard stuff. So if you want to play around with that, we're just going to have some fun here. The Boost Blacks and Boost Whites, this Boost Blacks is going to take your darker tones closer to black as you move it up, or the opposite as you move it back down. So you can really have a lot of contrast control just within this basic exposure tab. The Boost Whites is going to do the same thing for the whites. It's going to move it closer to white. Then we have our adaptive exposure, and this is kind of, I think, is something that's really special to this program. We've included this adaptive exposure and regions technology that's in Adjust, and you can really get localized contrast control and really balance out the image and have some really unique looks. So just by default, if you check this, immediately you'll see your image kind of pop because the adaptive exposure and regions are set to an actual value. So here's before, here's after. Sometimes just that works. If you find that you want to increase it, you can. As you increase your regions, you'll see it becomes much more local. As you increase your adaptive exposure, that contrast starts to come out between each of those regions. So it's really up to you how you would like to use this. I'm going to go back to the default. You can protect your highlights and protect your shadows if they're getting a little bit dark or if they're starting to clip a little bit. Then we have detail and detail boost. Detail is going to, let's go one-to-one to look at detail. This is a good spot to do it. Detail is going to enhance the normal size detail within your image, or kind of average size detail. It's an overall image enhancement. The detail boost is going to take the very small details that weren't affected that much by the detail slider and boost those up. So as you boost those up, you'll see there's even more detail enhancement. So this gives you quite a bit of control over structure detail and micro contrast. And the great thing is this little checkbox right here is included as well. And this says process details independently. As you check that, you'll notice that the grungy look kind of disappears from your image, but you still have enhanced the detail and the adaptive exposure, but that grunge look that sometimes isn't good, especially for skin and portraits, goes away. So this is my favorite thing in both Adjust and in this particular tab because this saves so many pictures that start to get that grungy look that I don't necessarily want, but I still want that tonal enhancement. So let's go back to Fit and take a look at that one more time. So again, my details are pretty high here, so those are still being affected quite a bit, but you can tell when I click this off and on that grunge starts to subdue a little bit. So I'm going to take my details down just a little because they're quite high. Okay, now I'm going to move on to my color sensitivity. This allows you to adjust the sensitivity of the different colors individually. So you can take your reds or yellows, greens, cyans, blues, magentas, darker or lighter. So let's go for the blue and just watch the sky. Okay, so I've taken that darker. I can also go lighter. So this gives you very individualized control. That's something that I really like within this one. I'm also going to take my reds down just a little. And my yellows. Sure, why not? Okay, now we have color filter. Color filter simulates actually putting a color filter on your lens when you would have been shooting the picture. So if you put a red filter on your lens when shooting this picture, your sky would have gone darker. So let's see if we can do that. Right now it's at orange. You can see that over here by this little box. If I move my slider around, that box changes colors, so it's really easy to tell what you're actually on. So I'm going all the way to red. Immediately my sky gets darker, and then I can change the strength of that and really push it. I think I'm going to leave it pretty, oh, we'll leave it right about there. Then we have our curve tool. This is going to be kind of your standard curve tool, but we've included these drop-down presets here for you. So if you want to just do light contrast, you can just click on that. A light contrast curve will appear. Stronger contrast, you can click on that. A stronger contrast curve will appear. And then you can come in here and adjust it yourself if you'd like, or add points, and really have a lot of control over the contrast within your image. So this is a really powerful tool, very fun. If you want to reset it, you just click on this button. And I'm actually going to go with a little bit of light contrast. Okay. Then we come down to our creative effects. Our creative effects include Simplify. This gives you the ability just to simply take out smaller details, some distracting elements within your image, but still keep an actual photo look to it. It also allows you to create painterly effects and cartoon effects just with these two sliders. So I'm going to click it on. The default is going to be painterly, so you'll see that immediately. But if I take my simplify size down and my feature boost down, and I just take my simplify size slider up just a bit, let me go 1-to-1 so you can see an area where it starts to affect it. Okay, as I take my simplify size slider, you'll start to see some of the details start disappearing and becoming a little bit more flat, but you can still keep that really photograph type of look. So let's go back to Fit and I'll show you what it did. Here's before and here's after. So it just simplified the photo, took away some distracting elements within the sand if you find that distracting. You can go really high with this and take out almost all the detail, and it gets really flat. Then if you take your feature boost, this is going to put some contrast back into the different features and allow for a more painterly effect, starting to get brush strokes almost, and as you push this even higher, you can almost get a cartoon-like effect. So this is really nice for somebody who wants to take their image to a different creative type of look. The diffusion filter will allow you to simulate an actual diffusion filter that you would put on your lens. All of these creative effects are best to look at one-to-one, so you can really see what's happening with your image, because the preview might not be exactly what you were expecting. So you can play around with that. Here's before, here's after. Get a really soft, ethereal type of looks. Used to be used for portraits. Okay, then the posterize effect will take your image and actually flatten it into anywhere from 2 tones to 8 tones. And then you can take your poster detail, get really detailed with it, or you can get very undetailed with it and get a very graphic type of design. So this is more graphic type of stuff, and definitely not something that people are going to use on an everyday basis, but very cool nonetheless. All right, camera shake. Let's go to fit so we can kind of see how this works. Camera shake is going to simulate camera shake. Just take that camera shake slider up and you'll see your image start to blur, and then you can actually take the angle and move the angle around. So this is good for just creating a little bit of movement there within your image if that's something you would like to do. So I'm going to take that back down, and then we get to our local adjustments. Local adjustments are going to, again, you can dodge, burn, do selective color, detail, and smooth. I'm going to start off with color because that seems to be, I think it's already been requested. Okay, so let's click on color, and I'm going to make sure my color brush is selected. There's also an eraser tool to erase all of my changes that I make. Then you have brush size, opacity, hardness, and edge aware. Brush size I'm going to take up pretty high because I'm going to bring back my sky in this particular image. My opacity, I'm going to take that up all the way because I want to really have you guys see exactly what's going on. Now again, the brush size, you can actually see how big it is when you take the slider up and down. Then you can adjust the hardness of your brush, excuse me, I forgot that word for a second. So I'm going to take this up kind of hard. And then we have edge aware, and this is the key to these selective adjustments. If you want it to be a hard edge selective adjustment in the sense of I just want to bring back the sky, but I don't want to bring back anything else around it, then this edge aware is the key. Right now I'm going to show you a non-edge aware, so I'm taking the edge aware slider all the way down to 0, and if I just paint across my sky, you'll notice that my brush is on the mountains, and it actually brought back the mountain color because this is a non-edge aware brush. It is just a regular brush. This is really nice for more like when you're burning and dodging, to have a little bit more of a realistic type of burn and dodge that you might have in a darkroom. But if you want to bring back selective color in only one part, this is a great, the edge aware is what you really need to focus on. I'm just going to erase this. I'm going to take my edge aware all the way up, go back to my color, and I'm going to make the same stroke, making sure that my crosshairs of my brush are on the sky only, that they don't go anywhere else. And you'll notice my brush is over the mountains, but it actually doesn't affect them. So that is how that would work. So whatever your crosshairs are on, it's going to bring back that color. So that is how the edge aware technology actually works. It's very cool, actually. It does a really good job. All right, so let's show before and after. Okay, so you can do that with dodging, burning, bringing back some structure, detail, and smoothing, and making this nice. This detail and smooth are great for portraits. I'll show you that here in just a bit. Then we go down to our finishing touches. In the finishing touches, we have our 2 types of toning that you can do. First, you have silver and paper tone, which is going to be a more, it's going to take 2 tones, your silver and your paper, so it's a duotone. Let's take our paper strength up to 50. And first, you have your tonal strength, where you can take the overall strength of the tone up or down. You have your tonal balance, which will put more of the silver tone, which is going to be more of your darker tones within your image, and then you can put more of the paper tone as opposed to the silver tone, which is going to be more of your whites within the image. So let's make that really obvious. So I'm going to make this silver tone green and the paper tone purple. And now I'm going to take my balance to the left and I'll get more of that paper tone, that purple. And as I take my balance to the right, I'll be getting more of that green. So this is just one more slider to help you control the exact tone that you're looking for. Then you can choose your silver hue like I just did. It's the same type of hue slider. On the right, you'll see what your hue actually is. Your paper hue is going to be the same idea. And then you can control the silver tone strength and paper tone strength individually. Again, just giving you more control over that tone. I'm going to undo that one. Then we have quad tone. Quad tone is my favorite thing in this program. It has a lot of control to it. I'm actually going to step out of this and we're going to go look at, let's say today we'll look at the Van Dyke Brown collection. And we'll look at the Redwood Fawn. Okay. So as I open up my finishing adjustments, I see that the quad tone is checked. The quad tone is used to make most of these tones within these presets. Reason being is that I was able to create much more realistic tones using this quad tone. So you'll notice when you open up the quad tone that the colors right here that are part of this quad tone are the colors that are in this particular image. So my darks are this more brown, this dark brown. My darker tones, but medium dark tones are more of this reddish color. Lighter tones are this yellow color, and then the lightest are going to be this white color. The way that you choose your tones is just by clicking on the little tone box, the little square, and it'll pop up and you're able to actually color pick it out. And then you can move it around. This is what I was telling you about actually controlling the way that the tones are affecting your highlights or your lowlights within your image. You can really go in and change this around to what suits your image best. What these are these region sliders. They go from 0 to 255, each one. Okay. The 0 being your blacks within your image, 255 being your whites. So you're able to, if I want this to be the darker image, it's going to be closer to 0. And as I push that to the right, everything to the left here is going to start becoming this darker. And you'll notice that my darker tones are starting to become that actual brown. You can also play around with all of these to actually put the tone exactly where you want on your tonal scale. So you can really control how your highlights are handled, how your lowlights are handled within these tones. You can keep the same ones, or let's say I want to get this red out of there. I want to have more of a brown. Can just move that around and it's applied to my image. So very simple stuff there. All right, so let's just keep that and we'll keep going on. The film grain is going to simulate, when you pop that open, first thing you'll see is this grain box, this pull-down menu that has all the different scanned grains that we have available for you at this point. You can just click on one, so let's just click on T-Max Pro 100. It will apply to your image. It's best to look one-to-one so you know exactly how it's applying. And then you have before and after. It's very realistic looking, but if you don't like it, you can take your grain contrast down or up depending on what you're looking for, and then you can actually manipulate your grain size too. So you can simulate your own grain as well as start out with an available grain within the grain engine. Then you have border. Let's go to fit. And at this point we have solid black and solid white. It's important to know that your whites are actually going to be the lightest tone in your tone. So this quad tone here, it's pulling from this particular white right now. If I was in my silver and paper tone, it would be pulling from the paper tone, whatever I've made my paper tone. So you'll see sometimes a little bit of a tone applied to that white border, and that is why. The same thing with your actually not the blacks on this particular one. The black is just black. We are adding into this border so that you'll have more available to you in an incremental update, and as If you're a Topaz user, you know all of our updates have been free so far, as this one will be as well, so be looking forward to more borders. Okay, we also have edge exposure where you can actually burn or dodge certain edges. So if I wanted to burn this bottom border, I could just click on bottom, take my edge exposure, let's say up. Okay, I can change my edge transition, make it just the edge itself, or I can bring it into the bring it into the picture, and also the edge size if I want to increase that. So a lot of different controls there for you. Your vignette is going to allow you to actually create a center for your vignette, and then you can change your vignette strength, your vignette size, the transition, and the curvature. So I'm actually going to take my vignette transition all the way down so you can see exactly what's happening. So to pick your center, you just click on the center button and you choose exactly where you want it to be. You can change your size, the transition, and then the curvature. And this allows you to go from an oval to a more square-like 90-degree angle type of edge, still curved a little bit for a more natural look. And then you can also put a more of a fall-off type of, a dodge type of vignette, or a darker vignette. So you have all sorts of choices in here. Then we have transparency. Transparency is actually going to bring back the original color. So if you click on that and we start to bring it back, it's still going to have the toning because I have the quad tone checked. If I unchecked it, you'd see that it's bringing back some of that original color within the image. And that is, again, something we included to give an almost hand-tinted look to those palette type collections. You can be really subtle with it and get some very beautiful effects. And I actually like to bring some of it back with the toning because I feel like it starts to look like an old color photograph, even though I know this isn't a color program. But again, it's black, white, and beyond. So there is a quick intro into our new plugin. I hope that this has covered it pretty well for you. We'll go over a couple workflows here in just a minute, but I want to go ahead and turn it over to you guys and answer the questions that are coming through. And if you have any other questions, go ahead and type them in your questions module now. And over the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'll try to answer those through examples. All right, Eric asks, is there a way to make adjustments to just a portion of the image using something similar to a brush or mask? I think we covered that with local adjustments, but let's go ahead and I want to do a portrait for you and show you a little bit more of how this local adjustments can work. Let's get out of that. We'll do this portrait because this is great because we can do the detail and smooth in this portrait. So let's open it up. Okay, and I'm just going to go to that traditional collection and click on classic. Okay, the classic, here's before and after, and let's say reset all. Her skin looks pretty good in this just the grayscale, neutral grayscale image, but the classic pulls out some tones that I really like in it, some highlights and lowlights, but it doesn't do good things for her skin. This is something where a couple tricks might come in because I've had many questions on portraits. So let me just show you that real quick. I'm going to open up the conversion first, and I notice right off that my adaptive exposure is checked. So I'm just going to open that up. And I know from experience that what's happening here is the adaptive exposure and the details are being processed together, which is causing a little bit of a grunge effect. And to get rid of that, again, all you need to do is click on this little process details independently. Here's before, or here's after. Here's before and after, and you'll notice there's an immediate smoothing. I can also take out a little bit of that detail boost, which is going to be taking those smaller details, and that might be affecting her skin in a negative way. So again, here's before and after. So I'm able to keep those tones without affecting her skin negatively. But I still see some wrinkles that I might want to smooth out, and if I want to put some detail back in her eyes and lips, I can easily do that through the local adjustments. So I want to show you the detail first. We'll just put some detail into her eyes and have that catch light even brighter. more distinct. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush size down to about her eyes. We'll go 1 to 1. Okay. My hardness I'm going to take down as well. The opacity I'm going to take up just so you can really see the difference. You might not want to do it this strong in your actual portraits. The edge aware I'm going to take down because I don't really want it to be too edge aware. And I'm just going to come directly in here and do a quick detail enhancement. Okay. Now I can even see the person in there taking the picture. All right, so here's before, here's after. Let's see what it looks like far back. Here's before, here's after. So it just brought out some detail within the eyes. A little much, actually, for my taste, but again, just to show you, hopefully you're seeing that pretty strongly. Okay, I'm going to go back to 1 to 1 and going to work on the skin now. The way I'm going to do that is come to my smooth. I'm going to leave the overall strength again pretty high so you see it. The brush size can go up a bit because it's the skin a little bit more. I'm also going to take that edge aware down. I'll take the opacity up so you can see kind of how it works. Ooh, and that's really obvious, but that's really strong. But you get the idea. If I wanted to, I'm going to actually erase that and make that not as strong. I feel like I just flattened out her face completely. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to take my opacity back down, my overall strength down, and we'll try that one more time. Oh yes, much more natural. Probably not as obvious though, so let's try that. Again, just some tools that are available here for you. You don't have to use them, but they're great on portraits I'm finding. So let's go back to fit. Continue working. And I'll show you the before and after. This is pretty sloppy work, so forgive me. I just want to show you real quick. Okay, so here's before, here's after our local adjustments. Notice the skin. Here's before. Notice the wrinkles here. And, oops, didn't click it. And after. So some nice tools to work on portraits. Eric just wrote in, is this for both Lightroom and Photoshop? Yes, it is. With Lightroom, Aperture, and iPhoto, you'll need to download our free compatibility software, Topaz Fusion, and that allows you to access all of the Topaz plugins except for Remask within your Lightroom, Aperture, and iPhoto. Okay, I have somebody who wants me to go over more of the selective color. I'm happy to do that. I like to show off this particular selective color because you can see exactly how easy it really is. Let's take this original photo in. Okay, and I'm just going to, let's go with our warm tone white border. Okay, so let's go here and fit. Let's say I want to bring back just the red in my vehicle here, the red of the case in the back seat, the red of the tires. We can do that really quickly. So I'm going to go back to my main view. I'm going to come to my local adjustments. And now you'll notice as I do this, my brush size is going to be really big. And I just want to show you exactly how edge aware this really can be. So I'm going to take my edge aware all the way up, my hardness up, my opacity completely up so you can see everything. And I'm going to, let's just go 1 to 1 to make it a little bit easier for you to see. Okay, so I have a really big brush as you can see, but only my crosshairs are going to be on the red part of the tire, and I click once and it all shows up. Again, here goes once with the case. As long as my crosshairs are where it needs to be, or is on the color that I'm trying to bring back, it's going to bring back that color within the entire brush, but it's not going to bring back any other color. So very, very easy tool to use. Just remember the crosshairs need to be on the color that you're bringing back. So again, let's do the sky as well. If I'm going over the tree right now, which is bright green, I'm going over the building, which is yellow, and I'm able to quickly bring back my sky without any trouble whatsoever. And it's just my sky. Now again, what if I wanted to get in between these little holes in the tree? All I need to do is put my crosshair within the blue area. So let's show 1-to-1 so you can really see that. And all of my blue in between the trees comes out, even though, and nothing else. So very easy tool to use. Let me go back to fit. Oh, Eric says, am I clicking on the blue and holding down and painting? Yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm holding down and painting, just making sure to keep my crosshairs as I paint on the blue. So if I accidentally was holding down and I came down onto the building, you'd see that the building starts to come in. But as long as I just hold down while I'm on the blue, it won't affect the building whatsoever. Eric asks, when you click on preset after preset, are you building up each as a layer or changing completely to the new preset? Great question. You are changing to the new preset. Each preset has several different things included in it. So your cool tone to smooth, oops, let's get rid of that, is going to have different silver and paper tone, different film grain, and a different conversion setting, possibly, maybe not, but possibly, than maybe your warm tone smooth. So it does change completely. You don't have a way to, but the great thing about this is that the menu on the right never changes. So even though you started off with, let's say, a cyanotype preset over here, you still have the same tools over here, so you can continue to add and really make it your own. You can just start off at the preset that you think might be a good starting place for your image, and then you can continue working on it. Glenn asks, he says, you've erased a few times. Would you undo work as well? Glenn, that is a great question. The reason I'm not doing undo right now is because my undo does not affect my local adjustment work. That is changing with the incremental update we'll be releasing in a couple weeks, because that is something that's been highly requested, to be able to undo your stroke marks. So that's going to be able, you're going to be able to do that. You're also going to be able to reset. So these reset buttons that are in everything else are going to be within your local adjustments. So when you click on that, it's just going to reset back to the original mask, and all of your adjustments are going to go away. So those are two things we are adding in just for convenience. Currently, the reason I'm erasing over and over is because that's the only way to get rid of part of your mask without getting rid of the whole thing. Eric asks, so I don't have to click on undo when going to a new preset, correct? No, you do not need to click undo, because going to a new preset or even a new collection is going to completely reset over here. Each preset has its own settings, so you don't have to worry about clicking undo to get back or anything like that. One other thing that's really interesting to know, so let's say I'm starting at my lavender gray dynamic right here, and just to make it really obvious, I'll just put simplify on, and I'm going to say OK. What I'm trying to show you is how to get back to the exact same setting that you used the last time. So in each collection, there's a preset called last used settings. So if I take in, let's say I take in this image now, this setting probably won't look very good on this image, but we'll check it out. I just go to my last used settings, and you'll see it's that painted, simplified lavender gray dynamic preset. So that is how you get back to your last one. Daniel asks a great question. He says, so what does undo do then? Okay, so as I move my contrast, if I just press undo, that will it will undo. So it'll undo all of the slider adjustments and every other adjustments that you do. It just won't undo the local adjustments. That's the only one that undo does not work for. Glenn asks, what is this snap for? So let's take a look at that. I forgot about that. Let's go into another image just for fun. Let's find one. Okay, this will be a good one. Let's pop that in. Okay, so let's go for the toned collection. And we'll go down to, okay, so here we have our conversion. If I start out with a preset and I keep going and I decide I want to really get my adaptive exposure high, really get that localized contrast going, I'm going to take a snap of it. Okay, I'm going to take a snapshot. Now I'm going to process my details independently. I'm going to take my yellow down, and maybe I want to do something like that. So I'll take another snap. And now I can look at my quad tone, and something's going on that I don't like in here, so I can move that around and try to get these tones exactly where I want them. Take another snapshot. Now if I want to look at all the different snapshots, I can toggle back and forth between them to see which one I like best. So that is how the snapshot feature works and why it's such a cool little tool to be able to take a snapshot during the process, and then you can compare all of the different changes you've made to the previous time when you thought, oh, this is a great image. So then you can really have a full idea of which one is going to be best, and you don't have to sit there and worry about getting back to the same point you were. So use that. You can take up to 99 snapshots. Just know that when you close the program, all those snapshots are lost. Those are not saved. The only way to save your settings is going to be actually saving a preset. So coming over here, naming the preset created by, saying OK, and moving on. Eric asks, when creating presets, what information is included? Borders, quad tones. Everything is included except for your local adjustments. The local adjustments are specific to each image, so that information is not going to be saved with your preset. But other than that, all of the conversion, all of the creative effects, and all of the finishing touches are going to be saved with the preset that you choose. So if I had a border, if I had a vignette, decided to go crazy and add some tone, even more tone. And I saved this. Or we're in tone collection. Okay, so I can get out of that, come back to my tone collection, go somewhere else, then go back to my X test. It's going to save everything. So it saved my borders, my vignettes, anything I put in there. Paula, yes, when you have all the settings the way you want them, so I'm going to take my vignette off, take off my silver and tone. When you have everything set exactly the way you want, you just press OK, and it is applied back to that layer within Photoshop or Photoshop Elements or your host program, whatever host program you're in. So that is how it gets back in there. So thanks again, everybody. I hope that you have an excellent day or excellent morning wherever you are, and I will just be talking to you soon. Keep an eye out for our webinar newsletter coming up as well. Next month is just going to be tons of different black and white webinars. We have some special guests coming in, Rick Salmon, John Barclay. Really excited about that as well. And we're going to be going over individual tools such as the quad tone and how to really get familiar with those type of tools. All right, thanks again. Talk to you soon. And if you have any questions, you can just reply to the email or write me at webinars@topazlabs.com. Bye-bye.